not able to attend today, and Marcia and Tom have received numerous telegrams, and they've asked me to share a few with you. From Jeff Brenzel, New Haven, Don was unfailingly kind, supportive, and enthusiastic with me during my term as Dean of Admissions at Yale. He was everything that you say, generosity of spirit, the likes of which I think we will rarely have a chance to experience again. Robert Jackson from New York. Don was one of Yale's most dedicated and loyal sons. No one cared more about diversity in Yale more than Don. Few alumni put in the time and the effort that Don did to make Yale a better place. From Dale Minami in San Francisco, Don's courage in fighting for tenure and vision and brilliance in developing the Asian American Studies Center into the preeminent center in the country are testaments to his convictions and principles and genius. From Joanne Kwan Reynolds from New York City, we had a riotous time together. He was a fabulous cook of various cuisines. He did have a portion size issue, more than what would be usual. And we tried to live up to his expectations by eating twice our body weight. I loved going to Chinese restaurants with him. He would be given the version in Chinese, whereas I was obviously American-born and given the English subtitles. Renee Tajma Pena, Los Angeles. Don was a giant, and his legacy lives in every young Asian American who has an aha moment in class. Every bit of our research in Asian American Studies family, he lives on in our hearts and in our community. And Kenyon Chan in Tacoma. Once in a while, a very special person will come into our lives and change what has come before. Don was one of those transformative individuals. Jeff Chang from Palo Alto. Don would always welcome me into his office, stuffed with books and piled with papers, no doubt the stuff of all of the important work he needed to get done. I knew he had all the answers. I mean, I'd enrolled at UCLA just so I could ask him. Most times, though, he would just nod his head and ask me right back, well, what do you think? These days, when students drop by my book-crowded office to ask me questions, I take a deep breath and I think of Don and then ask them right back, well, what do you think? Thank you for teaching us how to find the answers in ourselves, for your expansive faith in our own powers to make change. Aaron Chu from Sydney, Australia. Don came during the Australian federal elections in 2013 and was interested in the candidates who were running from an Asian Australian background. Our conversations that day ranged from politics, global events, advocacy, and my own personal ambitions. He encouraged me to raise my voice and said every tower starts with one brick at a time, even in adverse and difficult climate. Ben Ostar from New York. Don created a lifeline of guidance, support, and engagement in community-based research and work that kept me the first woman in my Midwestern rural California family to graduate college, and countless others from dropping out of school because we couldn't figure out how or where we fit in. He set so many of us firmly on a path of lifelong learning and meaningful work, often calling on his extensive network of amazing, diverse, and truly wonderful colleagues and friends to make a connection. Don created a role for me on one of his first projects and then arranged for me to work with Marcia, who in turn created more opportunities for me. He introduced me to Carlos, who employed me as a law clerk, helped keep me from dropping out of law school, and officiated at my wedding. I have been blessed with a terrific family and wonderful friends that I adore, but above all others, right up there with my parents, I love it basically owe my life to Don. And Joaquin Avila from Seattle. I was super impressed when I found out that Don was able to make chorizo from scratch. It was many a Friday night when the other Chicanos got together to have one of his meals at Carlos's dorm room at Yale. He also introduced me to Mushu pork in Chinatown in LA, and I explained that this was just like a taco. He immediately corrected me and chastised me by saying, it's more like a burrito. It was then that I realized that Don was more Mexican than me. This is becoming a theme with food today, isn't it? I would also right now like to invite Dr. Belinda Tucker. She is the UCLA Vice Provost, and though we have been filled with Yaleys today, Don was truly a memorable person, an important member of the UCLA family as well. Belinda, she has a message from UCLA Chancellor Gene Block.
Chancellor Block very much wanted to be here today, but unfortunately he is traveling, but he has sent this message for the family. Dear Marcia, please accept my deepest condolences for your loss. We were very fortunate to have had your husband as such an important member of our UCLA family for more than 3 decades, and we are grateful for his many contributions to the Asian American Studies Center. Don will be fondly remembered as a pioneer and leader in the field of Asian American Studies. Even as he pursued his revolutionary research, Don was never too busy to be a hands-on teacher and a wonderful colleague. While his loss will be deeply felt, your husband's legacy will live on through the students and colleagues he mentored, through his illustrious career, and through the greater cultural and historical understandings brought about by his research and publications. When we lose a member of the Bruin family, it is our custom to lower to half-staff the university flag, which is located just east of Pauley Pavilion. At my request, Dawn will be so honored on May 5th, 2016. Please know that we share your grief during this difficult time with deepest sympathy. Sincerely, Gene Block, Chancellor. Now I'm noting the irony of having the flag at half-staff on May 5th. Cinco de Mayo, because he is half-Mexican. Rest in peace and love, my dear friend Dawn.
Thank you very much, Belinda. And Congressman Judy Chu, also a UCLA alum, longtime supporter of the Asian American Studies Department, would like to read right now from a resolution which she is entering into the congressional record. Congresswoman Chu.
It was back in the 1970s when I met this low-key man with a brilliant mind at the UCLA Asian American Studies Center. Don Nakanishi became its director, and he allowed me to teach the courses on Asian American contemporary issues and on Asian American women. He was dedicated, insightful, and compassionate, and I will always remember how he loved to laugh despite the many serious issues we had to face. We had many a discussion on how Asian Americans could make an impact on politics. I would have to say that he did plant a seed in my brain that was at first dormant, then sprouted, then bloomed, and now I am a member of Congress. Don had a great impact on me, but in reality, he had a great impact on the nation. He transformed Asian American Studies, and that's why I had to introduce a congressional record in his honor. It will be preserved in the halls of the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. forever, a fitting tribute to a man who changed so many lives. And this is what it says. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Dr. Don T. Nakanishi, a renowned professor and pioneer of Asian American Studies. Dr. Nakanishi's vision and contributions to the UCLA Asian American Studies Center, the most renowned research and teaching institute of its kind in the nation, forever changed the national dialogue surrounding Asian Americans in politics and academia. His legacy will live on long past his 35-year tenure at UCLA through this center and the community of students and mentees that he guided. Dr. Nakanishi was no stranger to injustice. His mother, father, and elder brother were interned during World War II as a part of the policy against Japanese Americans. He was raised in the multi-ethnic neighborhood of East Los Angeles, and it was in this diverse community that he found his roots and a sense of belonging. While studying political science at Yale University, Dr. Nakanishi co-founded the Amerasia Journal, the top academic journal in the field of Asian American Studies. He would continue his work on Asian American Studies as a professor at UCLA, eventually becoming its director. It was at the center that Dr. Nakanishi transformed the understanding of Asian American engagement in politics. When he retired in 2009, the center's faculty, students, and alumni worked together to establish an endowment in his honor. And every year, the Don T. Nakanishi Engaged Research Prize is awarded to UCLA faculty and graduate students in Asian American Studies who are pursuing outstanding community-based research. Throughout his distinguished career, he published over 100 books, reports, essays, and articles about the political participation of Asian Americans and other minority ethnic and racial groups in the United States. His works influenced and contributed to the rise of Asian American participation at all levels of government and politics in the later part of the 20th century. In 1976, he began what is now known as the National Asian Pacific American Political Almanac, which lists every Asian American elected official across the nation and has been called an indispensable guide to Asian American politics. Due to his accomplishments, President Bill Clinton appointed Dr. Nakanishi to the Civil Liberties Public Education Fund Board of Directors, which designed a program to inform people of the history surrounding Japanese internment. Dr. Nakanishi was a devoted mentor to his students, a stalwart champion for Asian American scholars and activists, and a loving husband and father. The field of Asian American Studies has lost one of its great leaders, and we will continue to honor his legacy and commitment to representation for many years to come. Don, we will miss you, but your impact lives forever. And now I would like to present this congressional record to Marcia and Tom. At this time, Rimba Briones would like to present his Darwinism.